Hi, I'm Naomi Oreskes from the University of California, San Diego.
I'm Eric Conway from the California Institute of Technology.
Can you folks tell me why you are here?
Well, we're here because we're the authors of a new book called Merchants of Doubt, How a Handful of Scientists Obscured the Truth on Issues from Tobacco Smoke to Global Warming. It's a book about organized campaigns to undermine the scientific evidence related to environmental issues such as acid rain, the ozone hole, and global warming. And we're here to promote it and to talk to people here about it.
We're asking everybody today one question to riff on, which is, what's next?
Well, I've been asked that question a lot since we finished the book, and the short answer is my laundry. But Eric and I are both academics, so I'm working right now on a book on the history of oceanography, working on the question of what difference it makes to scientific knowledge who funds the science.
And I'm working on a history of robotic Mars exploration and starting to think about maybe going down to the first Bush Presidential Library and dig into some of their records on the effort to pass the 1990 amendments to the Clean Air Act.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing that came out of the book for us was that there was a really interesting conversation back in the early 90s in the administration of our first President Bush about cap and trade versus carbon taxes. And we want to look at that because back in the 90s, Republicans didn't demonize cap and trade systems. In fact, they invented them, and in fact, they also accepted the scientific evidence. So we want to go back to that historical moment when Republicans did accept the science and promoted cap and trade as a market-based mechanism to address global warming.
What's changed for Republicans that suddenly they seem to be on the other side of that issue?
Well, what's changed? In our book, we discuss this whole idea of market fundamentalism, the idea that only free markets can protect liberty. And the Republican Party has bought into this line so thoroughly that they are now opposed even to the idea that there is such a thing as environmental damage, apparently, because they can't accept that there have to be some sorts of modifications to the American market system in order to deal with it. I think that's what we think has happened. It's a little hard to prove something so conceptual.
It's difficult also because it's a big historical question, but the Republican Party in the United States has really completely changed its position on environmentalism.
In the last 20 years.
Yeah, Republicans used to be environmentalists, right? Some of the greatest environmentalists of the first part of the 20th century, people like Teddy Roosevelt and John D. Rockefeller, were environmentalists. But in the last 20 years, the Republican Party has completely abandoned its commitment to the environment and turned against both the environment and the science that supports our understanding of it.
Why are people so taken in by the things that people say that deny global warming? Why do people buy into that?
People want to believe it. I mean, I don't really want to believe that driving my car is damaging the global environment. It's very hard to accept that, I think. And you have to become, what I did in order to be able to write this book and some of my previous work is dig into the science of it. I mean, really reading the journals for myself. And that's how I came to understand the world the way the scientists do. But it's simply that so many people don't really want to believe that. I think that's a big part of it. Naomi?
Yeah, well, it's a complicated issue, but we think there's at least three things that we can identify. One is that scientists, frankly, have not done a very good job of explaining the science to the public in terms that ordinary people can understand. A second is that there has been a very organized campaign to challenge the scientific evidence and to say that it's not certain, we don't really know, and that's the campaign that we document in our book. No, right? And then the third thing, of course, is that global warming is a bad news story, and people don't like bad news. So if scientists say, oh, this is really bad, you need to change the way you live, but someone else comes along and says, oh, no, actually everything's fine, most people would rather accept the everything's fine story.
So tell me, writing a book takes a lot of time, a lot of commitment. Why did you write the book?
Why did we write the book? We think that the story needed to be told. I mean, particularly once we discovered the connection back to the tobacco industry, a story that's already been told in lots of places. And partly because that's kind of what academics do, that's our talent set. We want to inform people about the past, in our case, the recent past. Naomi?
Yeah, I think we wrote the book because we felt like we had to. We were both doing much more academic work, but in the course of doing fairly serious academic work, we came across a story that really obviously had very important significance for the American people, politics and democracy broadly construed. And when we discovered this story and we realized its significance, I think we really felt like we didn't really have a choice, that we had to write this book.
Anything else you want to add or tell us?
Well, I'll be coming to Minnesota in August, on August 11th, 12th, speaking at the Will Steger Foundation Institute for Climate Education, and I hope people will come and hear us talk then.